On Friday, CEO of Twitter and owner Elon Musk released the Twitter files. So the Twitter files lit the right wing on fire. What is the Twitter files? Apparently, it is supposed to be a dump, a gigantic dump of information here about supposed bias by Twitter helping Joe Biden get elected by hiding information. So we'll get into the details, but essentially, they're dumps.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
All right. And of course, the right wing loves dumps. So let's get into it. So now, interestingly enough, this was released by journalist Matt Taibbi. So Matt Taibbi has actually done some really good journalism in the past. So it's kind of curious that he's out there releasing this information about Twitter. So that said, there is actually some things in there that do concern people on the left. So it is important. But at the same time, what the right wing is glommed onto is utter nonsense. So let's dive in. So now, again, these are files provided to Matt Taibbi, who posted about them on Twitter. They were supposed to be a bombshell about the First Amendment, free speech, and censorship on the platform. So here's the context of what's going on. In October 2020, just weeks before the election day, the New York Post published, at the time, the alleged contents of Hunter Biden's laptop. So here we go. We're talking about the Hunter Biden laptop. That's what this is all about. So now, that said, the information came to them from Rudy Giuliani in the form of a hard drive with information allegedly taken from Hunter Biden's laptop that was said to have been left at a Delaware computer store. So now, that said, at the time, we didn't know, is this fake? Is this legit? Like, is it real? Now, judging from where it came from, i.e. Rudy Giuliani, whom no one should trust, at least without a thorough examination into what they're providing, most of the news agencies, including Fox News, mind you, right-wing media, that wasn't trash blogs, passed on it. But of course, the trash blogs loved it. And so New York Post, which is one of those, or at least trash publications, decides, no, we're going to run it. Now, normally what would happen is that they would pick up the story, they would run the story, the right wing would freak out about it, and mainstream news might report it a little bit after the right wing blows up and freaks out about it, and then we'll have a conversation. But that didn't happen this time. Not on the Biden laptop, not originally. So what happened actually is what Matt Taibbi is calling censorship. Is that basically Twitter decided, no, we're going to shut the story down. So I actually disagree with that. I think that, what Twitter did in basically banning mentions of the story and then, suspending the New York Post along with anybody who shared the story off the platform, I thought that was the wrong move to do. Again, because it's just another part of the ridiculous news cycle. That said, right, that's not what the right wing is freaking out about. So now look, getting back to the contents of the laptop, right? There's a lot of salacious information in it, and a lot of it's actually been proven to be legit, that it actually was his laptop. So the New York Post, as I said, published it. We were all skeptical. Not, of course, the idea that Hunter Biden may have engaged in personal corruption off his name. No, that's like, come on, pretty much everybody who has a famous name can do that and has done that. Again, for a really good example, you just have to look at Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. Now, of course, the issue with that isn't the same as Hunter Biden, is that Hunter Biden was never in office, never in the White House. Whereas Ivanka Trump obviously was and got special deals. But okay, that said, we also found out that, Hunter Biden had some serious personal issues. And again, actually, I can't even say that we found out because we already kind of knew that already. That said, U.S. intelligence agencies, they warned everybody that, hey, this looks like it's got the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. Okay. So now on that, I just want to ask, has U.S. intelligence ever been wrong? Yes, a lot. So many times. Of course they have. But as I said, Twitter gets involved, suspends the Twitter account of the Post, anybody who shares the story, and I definitely agree with right-wingers that sucks. That's not the right thing to do. You shouldn't do that. But where the right is incorrect is the reason why. But first, more of what happened. Now, Twitter eventually caught on and reversed the decision and reactivated the New York Post. And that's the Twitter account, along with countless others, banned for sharing the Hunter Biden story. Then CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, admitted during a congressional hearing that they had made a mistake and that if they could do it all over again, they would have handled it differently. As in, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know if appending something to the New York Post story would have been appropriate at the time. And so I actually think that they should have left it alone. Because, the right wing comes up with all sorts of crazy stories. Why not just let them do it? Because in reality, when you try to clamp down on that, you create the Streisand effect and actually amplifies the story more when you try to shut it down. So that, as I said, it never should have happened. Again, think about it this way. Think about it if it was the Steele dossier and you had a social media company that shut that down. Now, much of the Steele dossier, except for the most salacious parts, was verified as legitimate. Imagine if that had been banned. Liberals would be furious, and rightly so. And if you're progressive, think about shutting down anybody who shared Hillary's emails. Any publication that had shared Hillary Clinton's emails, which again turned out to be legit. And while there wasn't any super weird smoking guns or anything like that, it did show you a lot of what Hillary Clinton thought during her campaign in the public and private face, etc. So that said, it's sort of the same thing. But again, going back to where the right wing is stupid and wrong. They think that if the Hunter Biden story hadn't been shut down by social media, suppressed, then Trump would have won the 2020 election. And let me tell you, that's wrong, because the 2020 election was a referendum on COVID, which the Trump administration had botched to such a degree that anyone would have beaten him. Honestly. Especially since, what it showed, or I should say, nobody really cared about the Hunter Biden story. Nobody who didn't already hate Joe Biden and supported Trump cared about the laptop. That's why I said, why not let the story go? It'd run for a couple of weeks and peter out. As all of these, right-wing supposed bombshells normally do. And again, while this showed that Hunter Biden is a deeply troubled person, it also showed that there wasn't any impact in the policies of the Biden administration. Again, it wouldn't have gained that much traction outside of right-wing circles had Twitter not banned it. By doing so, again, Streisand effect. Okay, but anyway, let's get into some of the tweets. So now, as I said, turns out what most of what Taibbi had tweeted was stuff that we already knew. But the one thing that conservatives jumped on the most was this tweet. Let me bring that up. It's tweet number 8 in the thread. All right. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team, the reply would come back handled. And you notice that there's a link of different tweets here. So, now, there's something problematic here in the fact that you have connected people that can request information be removed. I mean, off social media. And it's likely these connected officials have their requests granted. That said, in this case, the Biden team was actually in the right for requesting these because most of these, I believe a lot of these tweets contained images of Hunter Biden's penis. which would have broken TOS against non-consensual nudity. So the Biden team reached out and was like, hey, there are pictures of Hunter Biden's dick. That can't go around. Here it is. This breaks even your own rules. You should probably get rid of them. And like, oh yeah, no, of course. We do not want non-consensual
Tallywhack
on our platform. We got to get rid of it. Totally agree. Handled. So now, look, unfortunately, Taibbi didn't really mention that part of it, but was focusing on that, hey, we have the campaign team for Biden reaching out, these connected individuals, telling people, telling Twitter, or asking Twitter, I should say, to delete these tweets. And I think that's problematic. Okay. So, like I said, regardless of what was in it, conservatives do claim that this is a violation of free speech. But let me just say, free speech does not exist on non-governmental platforms. But they also, argued that it was the government doing the censorship. But let's go back to the tweet, or I should say the email in question. Do you notice the date on that? That is Saturday, October 24th, 2020. You know who was president at that time? Refresh me. Who was president?
Obama.
No, it was not. It was not Obama. Who could it have been?
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Oh, I know. Donald Trump. It certainly wasn't Joe Biden. So now it was the Joe Biden campaign that reached out to Twitter to ask them to remove pornographic images that broke Twitter's TOS. So when you look at the reason, that seems pretty above board. I don't see an issue here. I don't see an issue at all. So now, they also go to the 10th tweet here. So let me bring that up. This is also important context that Taibbi puts, that apparently the right wing ignores. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. And of course, he adds a however, because he goes on to argue that Twitter was still biased in favor of Biden, which is the whole crux of the argument, which is the whole point of publicizing these Twitter files. That said, okay, both campaigns do it. I'd like to see what kind of tweets the Trump campaign, I'm sorry, did I say campaign? I meant the Trump White House, since he happened to be president at the time, had reached out to Twitter to ask for them to be removed, and that Twitter had removed. I'm kind of curious. Taibbi doesn't point that out, and I really wish he would, because I'm curious to see that as well. Because both sides do it, right? And the argument here from the right is that, well, the left is using the power of the government to force Twitter to do censorship, or to collude with Twitter to do censorship just against conservatives. So, look, so far, what you see here is no smoking gun. There really isn't anything that you can point at 100% to prove that the bias from Twitter employees that they had to, towards certain campaigns were, had filtered down into them doing their jobs, since they had done this for both campaigns. Both campaigns requested they take certain tweets down, and Twitter honored those requests. The only thing they can legitimately point out is the removal of the New York Post and the mentions of the Hunter Biden story, which then they had come back and corrected later on. That does not show that the government was suppressing the free speech of conservatives. There were political campaigns asking private companies to moderate content. And so, again, not government, private corporations. So to recap all of this, requests to take down non-consensual pornographic images do not implicate the First Amendment. They do not suggest a grand conspiracy to censor conservatives in order to help impact the outcome of the election, or as, Herschel Walker would put it,
this election is about the people.
Yeah. Now, Taibbi, of course, could come out with more that proves otherwise. But so far, it's sort of an issue more of with executives at private companies inserting themselves improperly into partisan debates. Now, and that is a problem, and I agree with that. And it is something that maybe we need to look at. But the conservative reaction to all of this is not at all in line with what Taibbi's reporting actually uncovered. And so as far as this being a impeachable offense to Biden, who wasn't even president yet, this bombshell seems less explosive and more dud.